Have you ever asked your child a simple question like, "What happened? Why did you do that? Can you tell me how you're feeling?" And instead of opening up, they shut down, they look away, they shrug, they say,
I don't know.
or somehow things escalate even more. And you're standing there thinking, "I wasn't yelling, I was calm, I was just trying to understand." If that's happened in your home, stay with me. Because sometimes the very questions meant to create connection can accidentally create pressure instead. As parents, especially those raising autistic and neurodivergent kids, we're constantly encouraged to communicate more, ask open-ended questions, encourage emotional awareness, help them process what happened. And those are beautiful goals. But here's what we don't always hear. Questions require capacity. And when a child's nervous system is overwhelmed, even gentle curiosity can feel like demand. Ready? Because this is Kind Parent Collective. Less perfect parent, more real one. Questions require regulation. When we ask a question, we assume it's simple, but neurologically, answering a question requires processing the words, searching memory, organizing thoughts, finding language, regulating emotions, reading the social context all at once. For many neurodivergent children, especially those who experience sensory overload or slower processing speed, this stack can be overwhelming. If a child is already stressed, embarrassed, overstimulated, or tired, the brain may prioritize survival over explanation. So when they say,
I don't know,
it often truly means, "My brain can't do all that right now." Why feels bigger than we think. Why did you do that? To us, it sounds logical, curious, neutral, but why requires insight, self-awareness, and emotional vocabulary. And many behaviors, especially during dysregulation, happen quickly and instinctively. A child may not know why they yelled, grabbed, ran, or shut down. When asked to explain something they don't fully understand themselves, they can feel exposed, and exposure without safety feels threatening. That's when shoulders tense, eyes drop, or defenses rise, not because they don't care, but because they don't yet have access to the answer. Processing time is often invisible. Some kids need longer gaps between hearing a question and forming a response, but adults often interpret silence as avoidance. So we repeat or rephrase or add more explanation without realizing we just doubled the load. Imagine trying to solve a math problem while someone keeps tapping your shoulder, asking if you're done yet. That's what repeated questioning can feel like. Sometimes the most supportive follow-up to a question is, "I'm here, take your time," or even walking away gently and revisiting later. Questions during dysregulation backfire. After a meltdown, parents naturally want clarity.
What happened? What were you feeling? What could we do differently?
But immediately after overwhelm, the brain is still in recovery mode. Reflection requires a calm prefrontal cortex, and that part of the brain takes time to come back online. When we rush to process too quickly, we may accidentally re-trigger stress. It's not that reflection is wrong, it's that timing matters. Regulate first, reflect later. Hidden evaluation inside questions. Some questions carry unintended judgment. Did you think that was kind? What were you supposed to be doing? Was that a good choice? Even if asked gently, they signal evaluation. And many neurodivergent children are already hyper-aware of being corrected. So the nervous system hears, "You did something wrong, explain yourself." That perceived threat can shut down communication instantly. Curiosity only works when it feels safe, not like a test. Emotional language is a skill. How are you feeling? It sounds simple, but emotional identification requires interoception, awareness of internal body sensations. Some autistic children struggle to interpret those signals clearly. They might feel tightness in their chest but not label it anxiety. They might feel heat in their face but not connect it to embarrassment. So when asked how they feel, they genuinely don't know. And not knowing can feel like failing at something everyone else seems to do naturally. Sometimes offering observations helps more than questions. I noticed your fists were tight. That gives them an anchor. Too many questions equals cognitive flooding. When we stack questions rapidly, it can feel overwhelming. What happened? Who started it? What did they say? What did you say? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Each question requires a mental shift. For a child already taxed, that shifting is exhausting. Fewer, slower questions spaced out over time allow capacity to rebuild. Sometimes one thoughtful statement opens more than 5 rapid questions. Statements regulate, questions activate. Questions require thinking. Statements create safety.
That looks frustrating. I saw that was hard. I'm glad you are here.
Statements signal connection without demand. And once the nervous system feels supported, curiosity becomes easier. It's not about eliminating questions, it's about sequencing them after safety. Invitation language feels different. Instead of, "Why did you do that?" Try.
I'm curious what was happening for you.
Instead of, "What were you thinking?" Try.
I wonder if it felt big in that moment.
Invitation language softens the edges. It moves from interrogation to collaboration. The difference is subtle, but powerful. Offering an exit builds trust. One of the simplest ways to lower pressure is to give children permission not to answer immediately. When children don't feel cornered, they're more likely to return voluntarily. Safety creates honesty. Silence isn't failure. Silence often makes adults uncomfortable. We interpret it as avoidance. But sometimes silence is processing. Sometimes it's self-protection, and sometimes it's regulation in progress. Not every emotional moment needs language. Sometimes sitting quietly together builds more trust than any perfectly phrased question could. The long-term shift. When children learn that questions aren't traps, that they won't be rushed or shamed, that they're allowed not to know yet, they begin to open up more over time. Not dramatically, but steadily. They start volunteering thoughts. They begin initiating conversations. They circle back when they're ready, because the environment feels safe enough to return to. And that's the goal, not immediate answers, but long-term trust. If your questions sometimes shut your child down, it doesn't mean you're asking wrong. It means your child's nervous system may need safety before curiosity. You weren't wrong to want connection. You just needed a different pathway. Less pressure, more presence. Less interrogation, more invitation. If this resonated, consider liking or subscribing so more parents raising neurodivergent kids can find this kind of support. And if today was rough, you still did enough. Catch you on the next one.